My boyfriend, 20-year-old male, and I, 21-year-old female, have been in a relationship for a little over 8 months now. We were usually so in love, or so I thought he was, and used to spend time with each other at our university. We did have some serious arguments, which made him berate me at some point. I spoke with him about considering my feelings. Now everything was going great until I asked him why he doesn't give me oral intimacy while I do it to him every time we do the deed. He is the guy I lost my virginity to. He gave me oral intimacy only after I asked him for it, so many times during our first intimate experience. But after that, he always fingered me, but never performed oral intimacy on me. Mind you, I always take a shower before engaging in intimacy activity with him, so I'm clean down there, and I shave my pubic area quite often, especially if we are about to engage in intimacy activity. I always wanted to ask him why he never did it on his own. It was bothering me, maybe the smell or the taste, I wasn't sure. Even I kind of disliked the smell of his release. But I gave him oral intimacy even after gagging too much, since he always gets in hard-on when I do it. He enjoys receiving oral intimacy, to be honest. He would have given me oral intimacy 3 times max, for the whole time we were dating. So I asked him yesterday night. He literally told me that he does not like to perform oral intimacy at all. He said he hated how it tasted and smelled and only did it because I was so desperately asking for it. I was devastated after reading the text. I felt so ashamed and unwanted. So I broke it off with him. He was pissed and was trying to guilt trip me that it was nothing and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing as he does all the time. He even asked if I couldn't live without it. I said yes, I can, and it's important to me. I told him that I should be with someone who satisfies me and my needs. Just want to know if I'm in the wrong here. To add, I want to clarify some backstory about why I said he was berating me during arguments. He once told me that my breasts were small. I felt like shoot. I already dealt with so much insecurity because of it. His comment made me feel worse that I bawled my eyes out, and he compared me with some of the horrible people we have met. A cheater, a manipulator, etc., just to make me feel bad. He told me that he spits out this stuff in anger, but I would have never said this to him just to make him feel miserable and to prove a point, because I loved him. He always gaslights me into thinking that what I'm talking about ain't a big deal and that I can't leave him because we engaged in intimacy activity. He also told me that I never did anything for him, which is not true. I gave him my everything, supported and defended him against his jerk friends. I shut people down who did not respect us both. I cut contact with his entire friend group, who were all really horrible and generally F-boys, maybe 20 people. Put him first. Considered his problems as mine and tried to solve them. He once said to me, "That ain't my problem. Why should I care?" when I was dealing with some shoot. He never reciprocated anything back, called me a gold digger when there is no gold to dig. And I spent way more on him than he did on me. But I never mentioned this to him because I ain't heartless. So I think this is the final straw for me. Now for another update, some people questioned about my hygiene there. I'm 100% sure that it's normal and healthy. I wash up regularly. I'm a clean freak, to be honest. My boyfriend, now ex, said that he is sensitive to smell and taste. Maybe a texture thing, I don't know. Maybe he does not like even a tad bit of a normal female genitalia smell and taste. I just wanted to know if I did the right thing or not, for frick's sake. Gosh, I ain't seeking attention, as someone commented. Almost forgot. Some people are mentioning that I'm bullying him into going down on me. The answer is hell no. I ask for something that I desire. It is never wrong to speak up about what you want to experience during some fun time. I never forced him or physically shoved his face down there. I may have sounded needy, but nothing more. A huge thank you to everyone who took time out of their day to give me valuable thoughts and suggestions. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. There are men out there who will beg to go down on you and do it for hours, while expecting nothing in return. Never settle for your needs not being met or a partner who makes you feel ashamed and unwanted. Also, anybody who doesn't enjoy performing oral intimacy shouldn't expect it themselves. Comment 2. I love that when you broke up with him, he didn't think to offer compromises and the only things he could come up with were, 1, you're overreacting to. Why can't you just live without it? Now you're out here just living without him, and it's going to be one of the best choices you have ever made. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all of this. After breaking up with my boyfriend, I decided to focus on myself and my studies. I threw myself into my coursework and started spending more time with friends I had neglected. It was refreshing to be around people who genuinely cared about me, without any strings attached. I even joined a study group for one of my tougher classes, which turned out to be a great decision. The group was a mix of people from different backgrounds, and we all helped each other out. It felt good to be part of a supportive community. About a month after the breakup, I ran into my ex at a mutual friend's party. It was awkward, to say the least. He tried to talk to me, but I kept my distance. I didn't want to get sucked back into the toxic cycle. However, seeing him brought back a lot of emotions I thought I had moved past. I realized I still had some unresolved feelings, and it was affecting my ability to move on. Around this time, I started talking to a guy from my study group. He was kind, attentive, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. We started hanging out more, and it was a completely different experience from my previous relationship. He respected my boundaries and made me feel valued. But before I get into that, something else happened that forced me to make a tough decision. One evening, I got a call from my ex. He sounded distressed and said he needed to talk. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. When we met, he confessed that he had been struggling with his mental health since our breakup. He admitted that he had been seeing a therapist and was trying to work on his issues. He apologized for how he had treated me and asked if we could try to be friends. This put me in a difficult position. On one hand, I felt sorry for him and wanted to support his journey to better mental health. On the other hand, I was finally starting to move on and didn't want to jeopardize my progress. I decided to take some time to think about it. During this period, my new friend and I grew closer. We had deep conversations about our pasts, our dreams, and our fears. He shared that he had been through a tough breakup as well and understood what I was going through. This made me feel even more connected to him. One night, we were studying late at the library, and he leaned in and kissed me. It was unexpected, but felt right. We decided to take things slow and see where it would go. Meanwhile, I was still grappling with my ex's request. I talked to my therapist about it, and she helped me see that I didn't owe him anything. It was okay to prioritize my own well-being. I decided to set clear boundaries with my ex. I told him that while I was glad he was seeking help, I couldn't be his friend right now. I needed to focus on myself and my new relationship. This decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary. My ex didn't take it well and accused me of abandoning him. It hurt to hear that, but I stood my ground. I knew I had to protect my own mental health. This experience taught me a lot about setting boundaries and the importance of self-care. As my new relationship blossomed, I noticed a significant difference in how I felt. I was happier, more confident, and felt truly appreciated. My new boyfriend made an effort to understand my needs and desires, both emotionally and physically. We had open and honest conversations about our expectations, which made our relationship stronger. One day, while we were having lunch, he asked me about my previous relationship. I hesitated at first, but decided to be honest. I told him about the issues I had faced and how it had affected me. He listened without judgment and reassured me that I deserved to be treated with respect and love. This conversation brought us even closer. Looking back, I realized that my ex's behavior had deeply impacted my self-esteem. His constant criticism and lack of support had made me doubt myself. But my new boyfriend's kindness and understanding helped me heal. I started to see my worth and stopped settling for less than I deserved. In the midst of all this, I also reconnected with some old friends. They had been worried about me during my previous relationship, but respected my choices. It felt good to have their support again. We started hanging out more, and they introduced me to new hobbies and activities. I even took up painting, which became a therapeutic outlet for me. As I continued to grow and heal, I noticed that my ex's influence on my life was fading. I no longer felt the need to seek his approval or validation. I was building a life that made me happy, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. One evening while I was painting, I received a message from my ex. He apologized once again and said he understood why I couldn't be his friend. He wished me well and said he hoped that we could both find happiness. This message brought a sense of closure. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders and knew I had made the right decision. In the end, breaking up with my ex was the best thing I could have done for myself. It allowed me to find a healthier, more fulfilling relationship and rediscover my own worth. I learned the importance of setting boundaries and prioritizing my own well-being. And most importantly, I realized that I deserved to be with someone who truly valued and respected me. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for cutting off my neglectful parents and only reconnecting years later? For whatever reason, my parents didn't want me. Once they had my brother Adam, I was pretty much ignored. They didn't abuse me, but I was pretty neglected. Everything was about Adam and how smart he was, or how athletic he was, or how he was just the best thing since sliced bread. Then there's me, a pretty average kid who got decent grades, didn't play sports, wasn't super popular, and liked to read books. I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Why can't you be more like Adam?" What made me cut off my family was when they didn't attend my high school graduation. Adam had gotten hurt that morning, a sprained ankle, I was eventually told, and our parents rushed him to the emergency room because he swore up and down he broke his leg. I only got one text from my mom telling me that they would make it up to me with a dinner to some family restaurant I mildly enjoyed. I was done after that. Done. I had been used to being neglected or forgotten about, but I thought they would at least attend my graduation. I moved out that summer to go live with my cousin, 30-year-old female, and her wife in Arizona. Then I blocked them, and they haven't been in my life since. My family did try to get into contact with me after I left, but it was mostly just telling me I was a bad daughter and overly sensitive and didn't care about Adam. Years later, I still don't have any contact with them. I'm now married to my husband, John, 26-year-old male, who loves me and treats me like I matter. We also have a daughter, 2-year-old female, that I love more than the world itself. I have a close-knit group of friends and a job that makes decent money that I enjoy. I'm not saying my life is perfect or a dream or anything, but it's definitely leagues better than my childhood. Which brings me to last week, when my cousin called to tell me they had a message from my parents and my brother. This isn't anything new, but the message itself was. Instead of the usual blame game, my cousin told me that they wanted to apologize for everything. With Father's Day coming up, they were hoping I could come down to visit with my family, and we could have a discussion. I know most people would scream, "Don't, it's a trap." They want something from you, but I'm not so sure. For one thing, none of them have ever reached out to apologize for anything towards me. But I still have connections to my extended family, so I have info about my parents and Adam from them. None of them are sick or dying and need an organ. They're not in debt and need help with finances. My parents aren't hoping to retire and want to be supported. Adam doesn't need help with student loans, scholarship kid, so it could be genuine. But at the same time, I don't know if I care enough to have a discussion. My life has been great without them, so why do I need them now? I wanted them as a kid, but not anymore. However, John says this could be a genuine olive branch since they never apologize. He might be right. Even if I don't agree to have contact, I might finally get some closure, or at least some answers as to why they didn't want me, or why Adam was so much better than me. Should I hear them out, or just tell my cousin to tell them to go step on Legos? I'll take any advice at this point. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. That is something I think you need to determine for yourself. But since you're asking for opinions, my advice is to ask them to apologize in writing before you ever agree to a discussion. If they're sincere, they will respect boundaries. If you need resources, I'd look up Audit_former teacher on TikTok and Instagram. She has a ton of videos about going no contact with her hurtful parents and the tactics they use, and often links other no-contact adults. You may be able to relate. There are plenty of others, but I happen to follow her, so she gets my recommendation. Comment 2. You have a grandbaby, that's it. Or Adam isn't doing well in life in actuality, and they want you to support him or them somehow. but I'm putting money on them, learning you have a grandbaby. Any chance Adam came out as gay, and so now they're in grandparent panic mode? They have shown you what they are like. Do you really think all three of them suddenly grew the FCK up? I sure as hell don't. See if your husband will run interference for you. They've never had a chance to get their claws into him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So I decided to go to that Father's Day meeting. John and I talked it over a lot, and he convinced me that it might be worth hearing them out. We packed up our daughter and made the trip to my cousin's place, where the meeting was supposed to happen. I was nervous as hell, but I figured it was now or never. When we got there, my parents and Adam were already waiting. It was awkward at first, with everyone just kind of standing around, not knowing what to say. My mom was the first to speak. She apologized for everything, saying they had realized how much they had hurt me over the years. My dad chimed in, saying they had been blind to how they treated me and that they were sorry for neglecting me. Adam even apologized for always being the center of attention and not realizing how it affected me. I didn't know how to react. Part of me wanted to scream at them, but another part of me wanted to believe they were sincere. We sat down and talked for hours. They explained that they had been caught up in Adam's achievements and didn't realize how much they were neglecting me. They said they wanted to make things right and be a part of my life again. I told them how much they had hurt me and how I had felt like I didn't matter to them. My mom started crying and my dad looked like he was about to. Adam just sat there looking guilty. They all promised to do better and asked if we could start over. I didn't give them an answer right away. I told them I needed time to think about it. We left, and I spent the next few days mulling it over. John was supportive, saying he would back me no matter what I decided. I talked to my cousin about it, and she said she thought they were sincere, but it was ultimately my decision. A few weeks later, I decided to give them a chance. We started with small steps like phone calls and video chats. It was awkward at first, but it got easier over time. They seemed genuinely interested in my life and wanted to get to know their granddaughter. We even met up a few times for lunch or dinner, but then things took a turn. Adam started calling me more often, asking for advice and wanting to hang out. At first, I thought he was just trying to make up for lost time, but then he dropped a surprise. He told me he was gay and hadn't come out to our parents yet. He said he was scared of how they would react and asked if I could help him. I was shocked. I never would have guessed, but I told him I would support him no matter what. We talked about how to tell our parents and decided to do it together. We invited them over for dinner and sat them down. Adam was visibly nervous, and I could tell he was struggling to find the words. I held his hand and told him it was okay. He finally told them, and the reaction was not what we expected. My mom started crying again, but this time it was out of happiness. She said she loved him no matter what and was proud of him for being true to himself. My dad was a bit more reserved, but he said he supported Adam and just wanted him to be happy. I was relieved, but then my dad turned to me and said something that caught me off guard. He said he was proud of me too, for being there for Adam and for being strong enough to cut them off when they were hurting me. He said he admired my strength and resilience. I didn't know what to say. It was the first time I had ever heard him say he was proud of me. It felt good, but it also brought up a lot of old feelings. I realized I had spent so much of my life trying to get their approval, and now that I had it, I didn't know what to do with it. Over the next few months, things started to improve. My parents made an effort to be more involved in my life and to treat me and Adam equally. We started to rebuild our relationship, and it felt like we were finally becoming a real family. But then another issue came up. My parents wanted to have a big family reunion and invited all of our extended family. They wanted to show everyone that we were a united family again. I was hesitant, but I agreed to go. The reunion was a mixed bag. Some of my extended family were happy to see me and welcomed me with open arms. Others were more reserved and seemed to still hold a grudge. It was clear that not everyone was ready to forgive and forget. One of my aunts pulled me aside and told me she was proud of me for standing up for myself and cutting off my parents when they were hurting me. She said it took a lot of courage and that I had set a good example for my daughter. It was nice to hear, but it also made me realize that not everyone was going to be as forgiving as I was. As the reunion went on, I started to feel overwhelmed. It was a lot to take in, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. I ended up leaving early, and my parents were understanding. They said they were proud of me for coming and that they were here for me no matter what. In the end, I realized that rebuilding our relationship was going to take time. It wasn't going to be easy, and there were going to be bumps along the way, but I was willing to give it a try. I wanted to have a family again, and I wanted my daughter to know her grandparents and uncle. So that's where things stand now. We're taking it one day at a time and trying to move forward. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for confronting my wife about her boudoir photos after our son found them? And now we're being blackmailed. Wife, 40 years old, female, and I, 42 years old, male, have a good relationship. We have 2 kids, so obviously intimacy has been downhill in the past few years. A few months ago, my young son was using his iPad while I watched TV. Dad, is this mommy? Her iCloud is linked to his iPad. What was on the screen was a photo she had taken of her computer screen, which showed proofs of a professional boudoir photo shoot. This happened 3 months ago. We had a significant anniversary coming up, so I thought she took the photos for that. The anniversary passed and nothing happened. Father's Day was yesterday and nothing happened. My birthday is not until the end of the year. Also, I want to mention that we received a UPS delivery 3 weeks ago when I was home and received the package. That morning, my wife told me she was getting a package and asked me not to open it. We share an Amazon account, so we often open each other's Amazon packages, as they are usually for the kids or random products around the house. I am 99% sure she's not actively cheating on me. She has a set schedule and picks up the kids after school, so I'm not even sure when physical cheating would happen. I do not look at her phone or similar, so I can't confirm if she's been texting some guy. I have not really cared about the photos, but now I'm more curious than anything. Knowing what I know, would you address it with your significant other? Again, I didn't go snooping. My son genuinely pulled up the picture on the iPad, so I have a legitimate explanation. Is there a point when you would address it? My birthday is not for months, so why would she get the photos taken so far in advance if they were for that? Maybe they're just for herself. I would love any advice. To add after reading tons of comments. Okay, so first, thank you to everyone for providing thoughtful feedback, especially those women who have done a similar photo shoot and shared their experience with it. I have no reason to believe my wife is cheating on me. As for getting this done under my nose, every few weeks she gets her hair done or a manicure, pedicure, so I'm assuming she did this and told me she was having one of those done. I'm going to let it play out until my birthday in early Q4. I've already waited 3 months, so I can wait another 3, 4. She's not overly voyeuristic, so if in fact these photos are for my birthday, and she just took a long game approach, she has the right to a full surprise moment, at least in her mind, given that it really is part of the fun. If my birthday comes and goes, I will definitely mention the photos using my kid discovering them as the way into that conversation. That said, my radar is up a bit, and if my spidey sense goes off in the coming months, or I see breadcrumbs of something happening, I will address it with her. I promise to update this thread when there's resolution. Thank you all again. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have the ideal reason to ask her about it. You should ask her about it because she clearly does not know your son can see her pictures. What if she takes other kinds? Maybe she takes even racier photos as a surprise for you. Or who knows what? Don't accuse her of anything, but just bring it up kindly. Honey, you know how your iCloud is linked to Junior's iPad? Well, that means he can see your pictures. And he showed me some that I assume you probably didn't intend for him to see. We should probably find a way to change his iPad to his own account to ensure he's not accidentally finding things that aren't for him to see. Then from there, you can gently bring up, and I was wondering, what were those particular photos for? I want to respect your privacy, but they did seem to be fairly intimate photos. When did you do that photo shoot? Comment 2. She could have gotten them months before your birthday because she was worried the first set wouldn't be good enough and wanted to give herself time to do a second shoot. Or she was afraid they wouldn't be ready in time if she waited. Or she got a good deal on them doing it off season. Or she got excited at the thought of doing it for you and didn't want to wait. If there aren't any other red flags, you shouldn't assume she's cheating based on this. She could have taken the pics just to convince herself she's sexy after becoming a mom. Lots of reasons she could get pics taken that have nothing to do with cheating. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post. So, 3 days ago, I decided to finally address the boudoir photos with my wife. I couldn't shake the curiosity anymore, and it was starting to eat at me. I waited until the kids were in bed and we were both relaxed. I brought it up gently, mentioning how our son had stumbled upon the photo on his iPad. She looked surprised, but not defensive, which was a good sign. She explained that the photos were indeed meant for our anniversary, but she felt self-conscious about them and decided not to give them to me. She said she was planning to surprise me with them on my birthday instead. I felt a bit relieved, but also a little hurt that she didn't feel comfortable sharing them with me initially. We talked it out and she reassured me that it had nothing to do with our relationship, but more about her own insecurities. I told her I understood and appreciated her honesty. We ended the night on a good note, feeling closer than we had in a while. The next day, things took an unexpected turn. I was at work when I got a call from my wife, sounding panicked. She said she had received an email from someone claiming to have more of her boudoir photos and threatening to release them if she didn't pay a certain amount of money. She was terrified and didn't know what to do. I rushed home and we sat down to figure out our next steps. We decided to contact the photographer first to see if there had been any security breaches on their end. The photographer assured us that their system was secure and that they hadn't experienced any hacks. This left us puzzled and even more worried. We then decided to report the incident to the police, hoping they could help us track down the person behind the email. As the police started their investigation, we tried to go about our daily lives, but the stress was clear. My wife was constantly on edge, and I was doing my best to support her while also dealing with my own anxiety about the situation. We didn't tell the kids what was going on, but they could sense something was off. 2 days later, we got a call from the police with some news. They had traced the email to a disposable account, making it difficult to track the person down. However, they did find out that the email had been sent from a location close to our neighborhood. This information made us even more uneasy, knowing that the person behind this could be someone we knew or someone who lived nearby. That night, my wife and I had a long conversation about our next steps. We decided to install security cameras around our house and be extra cautious about our online activities. We also agreed to keep the police updated with any new information we received. The following day, my wife received another email from the same person, this time with a more threatening tone. They demanded a higher amount of money and gave a deadline for the payment. My wife was in tears and I felt helpless, not knowing how to protect her from this nightmare. We forwarded the email to the police, hoping they could use it to gather more information. As we waited for updates from the police, I couldn't help but think about how we got to this point. My wife and I had always been careful about our online presence, but this situation made me realize how vulnerable we still were. I started to question if there was something in our past that could have led to this. My mind went back to a few years ago when my wife had a falling out with a close friend. They had a big argument, and their friendship ended abruptly. I wondered if this person could be behind the emails, seeking some twisted form of revenge. I brought up my suspicions to my wife, and she reluctantly agreed that it was a possibility. We decided to reach out to this former friend, hoping to get some answers. My wife sent a message explaining the situation and asking if they knew anything about it. We waited anxiously for a response, not knowing what to expect. The next day, we received a reply. The former friend denied any involvement and expressed genuine concern for our situation. While it was a relief to know they weren't behind the emails, it also left us back at square one with no clear answers. As the deadline for the payment approached, my wife and I were at our wits' end. We didn't want to give in to the demands, but we also didn't want to risk the photos being released. We decided to have one last meeting with the police to discuss our options. They advised us not to pay the ransom and assured us they were doing everything they could to catch the person responsible. The deadline came and went, and we held our breath, waiting to see what would happen. A few hours later, my wife received another email, this time with a link to a website where the photos had been posted. Our worst fears had come true. The photos were out there for anyone to see. My wife was devastated, and I felt a mix of anger and helplessness. We contacted the website to have the photos taken down, but the damage was already done. The photos had been shared and downloaded by countless people. Our lives were turned upside down, and we were left to pick up the pieces. In the aftermath, my wife and I leaned on each other for support. We knew it would take time to heal from this, but we were determined to get through it together. The experience brought us closer in some ways, but it also left scars that would take a long time to fade. Thank you for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these, too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.